workshop. So I am out and, working with teachers, helping them integrate agriculture as well. So the title of my session is Urban Innovation. And so really this activity came about because of a process where, we talk about big issues in the world with students, but sometimes we leave them with that doom and gloom. And so we always want to kind of take that curtain back and give them this idea that they can do something. And so the activity that we're going to talk about today and also engage with really focuses on letting students kind of take a step of taking action and getting an idea of that. So urban innovation, this activity, like I said, got started because of a specific model. And this model is called Environmental Issues Instruction. And this is a 4-step teaching model. The first level is where we talk with students about what is an environmental issue. And a lot of times we use children's literature for that. So there are 2 books here, The Good Garden, and then also another book that you can see here that I've noted is Free Lunch. In the chat, just let me know, have you used The Good Garden before? Or have you used Free Lunch before? Just give me a yes, not yet, or maybe you've heard of them. Let me know in the chat what you think about those books. But utilizing children's literature helps us kind of connect with multiple students. So a lot of times, I focused on high school when I was teaching in the classroom, and I have students that can read at the 3rd grade level, but I also had students that were ready for college. And so utilizing children's literature allows you to kind of bridge that gap. And The Good Garden really focuses on things like soil issues and looking at how can we take care of our soil. Where Free Lunch, and it's a beautiful book. It's really great for middle school. If you haven't read it, I would highly suggest it. It really talks about food insecurity. And I was a person who grew up that was food insecure, and it made me cry, I don't know how many times, but I would definitely encourage you to use those books and read through them. And so in that first level, we've talked about, well, what is an issue? So in the chat now, I see none of us have really heard these books before, so I'm so happy I was able to show you these 2 new resources that you can check out. But in the chat, can you just tell me what is an issue? If you were to define that, what would that mean? Oh, someone's actually currently reading Free Lunch. That's awesome. So how would you define issue? Go ahead and write in the chat, what would you define? What words would you use to define issue? An obstacle, awesome. Maybe a challenge or a problem, right? Oh, something that needs to be addressed, right? So we have a couple people who are like, yep, I agree, it's a problem, it's definitely a challenge, maybe a problem to be solved. Sometimes our issues create problems, right? I love that, absolutely. So we can have some back and forth discussion about it. Oh, so an issue is a situation maybe without a solution. Okay, yeah. So maybe change too. So when we talk about an issue, we also compare it to things like a problem. And so an issue is very different than a problem. So for example, so this morning for breakfast, I had yogurt for breakfast, right? And let's say I couldn't eat the rest of my yogurt. So what could I do with my yogurt? If I couldn't eat the rest of my yogurt and I was full, that could be a problem. But what I do with that yogurt then might be an issue, because how I handle that, I could throw my yogurt away. I could maybe put it in the fridge and have it later, right? So the issue comes down where there's multiple sides. So a problem is where we agree that there is something that needs to be addressed, but the issue comes down to what should we do about that? And so that level 1 really focuses in on that issue, what should we do? And so identifying what the difference is between a problem and an issue. Then we lead into level 2. So once students understand this concept of what a problem is and how that's different than an issue, in level 2, we start breaking down what are the science concepts, it's the environmental understanding to help us solve that issue. And then level 3 has us looking into what are the issues in my area. And level 4 is, okay, so now that I know that there's some issues in my area, how do we take action on those? So we kind of addressed throughout this whole model, what's an issue? What do we need to know in order to solve that issue? And then going into, okay, well, what are the issues that are even happening around me? So helping students understand and becoming aware. And so when we think about this activity, urban innovation, we're really focusing in on this level 2. So what is the knowledge base needed to understand an environmental problem or the issue that we're talking about? So to start in on this, let's look at actually this phenomena, or like, what is this problem that we might be talking about? So let's look at this apple, right? So this apple, if we think about, is the earth, right? So let's say our apple is representing the earth. In the chat, can you let me know about how much of this apple can be used for growing food? So in the chat, let me know how much of this apple could be used for growing food? Right? All of it, maybe the whole thing. Okay, the whole thing, maybe like the seed. So if we think about the apple as an earth, right? So maybe like, so if we think of the apple of itself, yeah, seed definitely could help grow food. Maybe all of this could be utilized. So how much of it though right now is land? So let's say, how much of it might be water of our apple? About 70%. Right, 70% there. Right. So has anyone ever, about 30% we could use maybe to grow food? 80%? So this is a great way to just like talk to students about how much of our earth is really used for growing food. And when we talk about it, some parts of our earth we can utilize, but we have to be creative about it. About 0.1% can be used to grow food. Most of it's water, small percent to grow food on land. So it's maybe being specific about it. Maybe about 2%. So when we look at the earth, so if we think of that apple as a model of the earth, most of it, about 75% of it is water, where then we have parts of it broken up into areas that maybe we can't necessarily grow food right away. And then, so we have land that's like too hot or too cold, maybe it's too rocky to grow our food, even like our livestock can't really walk on it. We have areas where people need to live. And then we have like a sliver of this that's going to be used to actually grow our fruits and vegetables. We have part of it that's really going to be used in order to grow our crops to feed our livestock and also crops to feed us. And so I saw some of us in our chat were like thinking ahead, like, oh no, we can use all of our land to grow food. But why is that? You know, why can we maybe potentially use all of our land to grow food? Or even all of the earth to grow food? And if we think about that why, it can really come down to that concept of our modern technology. Absolutely, in the chat there, modern technology. We have to be innovative. And so if we think with our students about how can we be innovative to grow food in many different ways in many different places. And so this activity really helps them to start beginning to think about, okay, how can I be innovative to grow food? And so we're going to focus in on one portion of this part, which is that urban setting, right? So we can grow food potentially in urban areas. And so if we think about the earth, our population is constantly growing. By the year 2050, we might be at about 10 billion people. And we need new ways, new avenues in order to grow food in order to get it to all of those people. And one way is through utilizing urban settings or areas maybe that we haven't grown in before. And this is one way, which is through our modern technology and things like aquaponics and container gardens. So that's a great segue, Adrian, because my next question is that I'd like you guys to type in the chat is, well, what is urban agriculture? What do you think of when we say the words urban agriculture? Type them in the chat. So if we think of urban agriculture, what comes to mind? I mean, we already have, I'm going to keep some track here of what we're saying as we're doing this here. Ooh, a little big there. Oh no, now I'm way too small. Yep, keep typing in there, raised beds, community gardens, maybe we're thinking of. So we had raised beds, community gardens. We have some tower gardens. Oops, let's see if I can actually spell that. Gardens. Okay. I saw aquaponics. So maybe when we think of urban agriculture, think of aquaponics, we might be thinking of non-conventional. Non-conventional farming, maybe it's a small farm. So we might think of like somewhere that's small. Absolutely. What else are we thinking? Non-traditional. That's what I see up there too. Yeah. Oh, hydroponics. Not fields, maybe it's lawns. I love that. Maybe it's their lawn, maybe it's like in a small area. It might be maybe raw products, maybe more refinement. Reclaimed land. Ooh, open lots and greenhouses. So when we think of urban agriculture, what I'm seeing from a lot of us is that it's not like that big farm, right? We're not seeing lots of space. So we have to be very innovative about the space that we have. And so if we think about that, what is urban agriculture? We could probably come up with a whole list more of what urban ag is to us. But for right now, it seems like, oh, rooftop gardens, we'll add that in there too. It's a lot of new innovation places. Instead of us farming out, we're farming up normally in urban areas. We might be using tower gardens. Maybe it's a container garden where we're growing it on a small piece of land. Now, when we think of that though, some of these, it might not be a large scale. And so when we're thinking about through this too, is like, how can we grow in an urban setting large scale? So then that brings me to my next question. If this is kind of what urban agriculture is and what we think about, then why? Why do we need to grow in urban areas? Type in the chat. What do you think? Why would we even want to grow in urban areas? What do we think there? Ooh, health and like mental health. Yeah, bringing nature back to people, right? So nature can be very soothing and like having people, have access to food. Okay. Connecting people with where their food comes from. Ooh, freshness. So if it's grown where it's going to be eaten, it's going to be fresher. Absolutely. Oh, prevent food deserts. So a food desert is a location where food isn't readily available. And what we mean by food is more like fresh food. So there might be a gas station that has maybe bananas or apples, but not much else. And it might be very expensive. So if we can grow food in urban agriculture areas, we can potentially help lower the amount of food deserts or prevent them. Food security. Culture, absolutely. So thinking about cultures, bringing culture back to people who might have migrated or immigrated to the United States or another location, bringing culture with them. So allowing them to grow foods that help them feel like they belong. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So there are reasons why. So fewer steps in this food chain. And as we're talking through, feel free to keep typing in ideas into the chat. I'll try to make sure I get those over and, keep track of what everyone's saying. Community improvement, absolutely. And so if we think about, why urban agriculture, this is also a lot of, why might we want students to think about, some issues. Food security is a big issue. Like, how do we handle that? Should we do something, or what should we do in order to help, solve that food security problem, or help people with that food security? How do we get education opportunities within our agriculture in urban areas? How can we utilize scraps to regrow things? And preventing food deserts. So there's a lot of reasons as to why we might even talk about urban agriculture, but realizing too that one small location that you might be growing food for yourself or your family may be good for them, but how do we solve this for a larger number of people? And so this activity, urban innovation, really focuses on that. Why urban agriculture? Why do we need it? And then also diving into what it is. And so today we're going to do an activity to model a way that you can start introducing urban agriculture to your students. And we're going to use a program, and I'm assuming most people are on their computers since you're joining via Zoom, but we're going to use a program called Padlet. And I realize not all of us have probably used Padlet before. So I'm going to show you that. So to use Padlet, I'm going to put this link into the chat. But before I do that, I want to go ahead and show you how to utilize it. But before I even do that, the page. Give me like a thumbs up or something in the chat there, or a yes. Yes, okay, perfect. Thank you, Katie. We can see that. So we're gonna break you out into groups, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna do the activity, because I think sometimes the best way to see kind of what's happening is to actually do the activity. And so our goal in our urban innovation activities is to design an urban agriculture farm that can be used as a proposal to the city council. So that's our goal. Your group, so the group that you'll be put in, it has been rewarded $600,000 to spend, and your goal is to be as close to your budget amount without going over. And we want things to be accessible. So if we think back to like what we were saying, why urban agriculture, a lot of that seemed like accessibility. So can food become closer, accessible to knowing where your food comes from, accessible on how to obtain that food. So think about that and what accessible means. So what you'll do in your group is first, you're going to choose your type of operation. And this information will be right here. You'll observe. So if I click on here, it'll open up a link to show you those different farming techniques in urban agriculture. These are the common ones. And then second, you're going to choose a building. Now, the building page, I'm going to show you real quick, because as I click on that, it's going to pull up that page in a PDF. The first page is a layout of the building. The second page is information about that building, and it works the same way through. So building page, and then information about that building, building page, information about that building, right? Then after your group determines what building you're going to use, you're going to determine what you will grow, right? So what might you grow? Are you going to grow livestock? Are you going to be growing any sort of vegetables? Are you growing flowers? What is your hope to grow? Then in your groups, after we break you out, in order to add to Padlet, you're going to hit, your group will have a number, and we're going to put you into 12 different groups, but you'll just hit add. And then what you can do is you just type in the subject. So you could just put your group's name, or maybe our urban plan. Oops. And then you can type down here the information for steps 1, 2, and 3. So you'll just type that information. Once you're ready to go, you'll hit post right here, that publish, and then it'll show up. So I'm just going to put test here, and when I hit publish, it'll show up there. So just make sure you're writing in the correct group name. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. So you can also delete your post if you post too early by deleting it just like that. All right. All right, so like I said, we're going to put you into groups, and actually I think we would probably do fewer groups than 12. We might just go ahead and do 10 groups. And so the instructions are over here, and I'll be popping in and out. So again, our goal in this activity is to design an urban agriculture farm. First, you're going to figure out, okay, in your group, what type of operation are you going to have? Then you'll choose the building that you'll want to use. And then you'll determine kind of what you want to grow. But I really want this to be a discussion in your group. Think about that pros and cons. Remember, we want this to be accessible. So I'm going to pause there. What questions do people have? Feel free to type those questions in the chat. All right. I am going to go ahead and share that Padlet link with you. Maybe if it'll let me. Stop sharing for a second, that might be helpful. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to assign you to your groups. When you get into your group, I'll share that Padlet link in the chat, and it'll come through there. Right. So I'm going to go ahead and create that group breakout session. It'll pop up on your screen. When it pops up on your screen, just go ahead and click join, and then I'll share that Padlet link with you. Remember, you'll want to check your group number, so that way you know which column to type in onto, and I'll be popping in and out of groups to help you out.
This meeting is being recorded.
Hi, Catherine. Can you see if you have breakout room access now? Oh, I can't hear you. Can you unmute, Catherine?
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
I did have access before. Everyone, sorry to bring you all back. We had some technical difficulties. So I'm going to do this a bit different way. I'm going to go ahead, so originally I put you in your breakout rooms and then sent you the link. I'm going to go ahead and send everybody the link right now in the main chat to the Padlet. So everyone has access to it. So when you look at the chat, you'll see it there. So again, I put that link, I'll put it in again to the Padlet. And now what I'll do, thank you all also for being patient as we're working through some technical things here. Put that in the Padlet, and then I'll go ahead and open up the rooms again here. Right. So again, the link is in the chat, opening it to the Padlet. I'll put it in one more time. If you click on that, it'll take you there. And then I'll open up the rooms and go ahead and join, and just make sure that you're typing in the column for your group, and I'll be popping in and out to help everyone out. Okay. I think it's working. Okay. So again, as that opened up there, go ahead and make sure to go into your breakout room.
meeting
All right, I think we have everyone back. I know that was a quick little taste of it, and I know we didn't get as far with the Padlet, but I just wanted to give you some time to just talk amongst your fellow peers and get some ideas and share some things with each other. Now, with students, normally what we would do then is we would have them go through the whole process and then create a plan to propose, and they might propose it to the class, because this activity is really kind of an introduction of like, what are these different methods that are used for urban agriculture, and then start thinking about the different buildings. Where could I actually put something that is urban ag specific? And then going into, okay, what kind of funds do I need in order to make this happen? And knowing that this is kind of like a jumping stone, if you will, to get them started. And this Padlet is going to be something you can go back to. All of those resources will stay there, so you can go back and see what other groups were thinking. But to keep us moving here, like I said, this was more of that level 2. And then that kind of leads into that level 3, which is now that students kind of have an understanding of what are different types of urban agriculture and kind of the buildings or like costs that might go into it. They can start figuring out, okay, what are some issues in our area related to food access or food security, and then start taking some sort of action towards that. So what responsible action can I take as we go forward? And so just as you're wanting to stay connected with me, this is my email. I know, like I said, this was a really quick overview of this activity. Maybe you just got started with your group, but hope you had a few good conversations, and thank you for sticking with me here. Feel free to email me if you have questions. Like I said, that Padlet page will be used and be up there for you for your use as well. Thank you all so much.
Well, we can't thank Catherine enough for her flexibility, and thank you all for bearing with us through the changes and challenges. I know that you've had a great time. I certainly did. So thank you so much, Catherine. I do want to remind you that everyone will leave this link, and you'll either decide if you want to go back to the secondary link or the elementary link. So you have that choice for the next session. And as a reminder, next is in the elementary section, food forests for outdoor living, or secondary, building community connections through ag literacy project. So thanks everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.